if someone honestly wants to start creating a life that looks more like the life they actually want, there are 4 surprisingly simple things they can do. These are things I have used myself. They don't cost anything. And you can actually do all 4 while watching this video. And strangely enough, the first one isn't about figuring out what you want at all. I think one of the biggest lies we have somehow collectively agreed on is this very simple equation that hard work equals success. Hard work equals money. Hard work eventually equals a good life. But of course, that is not the complete truth at all. We hear it so many times that we don't even really question it anymore. And when something isn't working in ourselves, in our lives, the automatic solution is almost always the same. Work more, try harder, push a little longer, become more disciplined. But let's be honest and a little realistic here, because there is obvious problem with this equation. Think about a single mother who has 3 jobs and works 12 or 14 hours a day just to pay their rent, buy food, and keep everything running. Is she not working hard enough? Of course she is. She may actually be working much harder than someone earning millions of dollars, which means that hard work itself clearly cannot be the thing creating wealth or success. And I want to be very clear, because this is not an attack on hard work at all. I have enormous respect for hardworking people, and I personally work a lot when I'm excited about something. What I'm questioning is why we turned hard work into a philosophy of life. Because there is a massive difference between working 14 hours because you are fascinated by what you are creating, and working 14 hours because you are terrified about what happens if you stop. From the outside, those 2 people might look exactly the same, but internally, they are living completely different lives. So, what if there was another way to approach this? What if instead of asking how you can work harder to improve your current life, you started asking what kind of life you would actually want to live in the first place? Because I think many people are trying to become more successful inside a life they never consciously chose. And I want to give you 4 very simple steps that you can actually do yourself. We are not going to start by asking what your dream life look like. We are going to start with everything you do not want. And if you really want to see the full benefit of what I'm about to show you, I would actually encourage you not to just listen to this like another video. Take your phone, open your notes, or grab a pen and paper, whatever is easiest for you, because all 4 of these exercises only require you to write. That's it. You don't need to buy anything, go anywhere, or prepare anything complicated. Mm. But there is one thing I want you to do differently. When I explain step 1, actually do step 1 before continuing the step 2. Pause the video if you need to. Then come back, listen to step 2, do that and continue like that through all 4 steps. Because if you only listen, you will understand the idea, but if you actually write the answers down, you start seeing your own life very differently. And I'm asking you to do this because these are not just 4 random exercises I came up with for a video. These are basically 4 of the steps I have used to create a life for myself that at one point would have been almost impossible for me to even imagine. For example, today, I wake up when I feel like waking up, and I go to sleep when I feel like going to sleep. Half of the time, I don't even know exactly what I'm going to do tomorrow because I come up with things as I go. Sometimes I have to check what weekday it is. I don't really have routines in the traditional sense. I mostly decide what I want to do based on what feels interesting, important, or enjoyable in that moment. What excites me today. And probably the best part is that I get to live like this with my family. We all have our own things that we love doing and creating, but we also spend a lot of time together, travel together, help each other with ideas and projects, and basically try to create lives that feels like our own instead of trying to squeeze ourselves into some standard template of what life is supposed to look like. We travel a lot. We can work from almost anywhere. And even the word work feels a little strange sometimes because we intentionally chose to focus on things we would probably be doing even if nobody paid us for them. And I think there is something really important hidden in that because when you love something, you naturally spend enormous amounts of time thinking about it, learning about it, and getting better at it. You don't have to force yourself quite as much because your curiosity keeps pulling you back. My wife, for example, absolutely loves understanding how the human mind works and why people get stuck in certain patterns. So naturally, she became a therapist. And because she is probably one of the most impatient people I know when it comes to problems, she doesn't want someone to spend years talking about the same issue. If there is a way to actually move it toward, see, she wants to understand what is underneath it and help the person change it as quickly as possible. And over time, that became one of the things she became known for. And what fascinates me, I can spend ridiculous amounts of time thinking about how to design a life that feels incredible to live. How do you remove the things you hate? How do you create more freedom? How do you make money and time support your life instead of your life revolving around money and time? How do you build a life from the ground up where you actually enjoy the ordinary Tuesday afternoon and you're not constantly waiting for the weekend or the holidays or retirement to finally start living? That is what fascinates me. And that's basically what these 4 steps are about. So I want you to approach this almost like you are the main character in your own movie. If someone gave you complete creative control over that movie, would you really write the exact life you are currently living, scene by scene? Or would you change some things? Because if you are going to take anything seriously, think your own life is a pretty good place to start. So follow these 4 steps with me. Don't overthink them. Don't try to give the right answer. And don't worry yet about whether something is realistic. Just be honest. I'll explain the first exercise. You write your answers. Pause the video if you need to, and only then move to the next one. Okay, let's start. Step 1. Take out the magic wand. Imagine that I give you a magical wand, but there is one strange limitation. This wand cannot give you anything. It can only remove things from your life. So if you could point this magical wand at anything in your current life and make it disappear without any consequences, what would you remove? Maybe you hate waking up to an alarm clock. Maybe you hate commuting. Maybe you hate asking somebody for permission to take a holiday. Maybe you hate checking every price before you buy something. Maybe you hate rushing, meetings, cold weather, cleaning your house, or taking the trash out. It doesn't have to be some deep philosophical answer. Actually, the smaller and more honest things are sometimes much more revealing. And do not judge your answers because this is where your programming immediately starts talking. You write, I don't want to clean my house. And your mind says, well, everybody has to clean their house. You write, I don't want to wake up early. And your mind says, successful people wake up at 5. Now, forget all of that for a moment. We are not asking what's realistic or what everybody else does. We are simply asking, if I could remove something from my life, what would I remove? I sometimes think about this like wearing shoes that are one size too small. If you have been wearing them for 20 years, eventually you might stop thinking, these shoes hurt, and simply start believing. This is what walking feels like. We do exactly the same thing with life. We become so accustomed to certain discomforts that we stop recognizing them as choices and start calling them reality. So write everything down because every single thing on that list is giving you information about yourself. self. Do not censor it and don't try to solve any of it yet. Just write. And this is where I want you to actually pause the video. Don't continue to step 2 until you have made your list. I don't want this, I don't like that. Take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you need. Go wild with it. Nobody else needs to see what you write. Pause the video now. Make your list. And when you are done, come back. Okay. Step 2. Flip the coin. Okay, now you have got your list. This is something called the flip the coin brain exercise in the intention game, and it's ridiculously simple because almost everything you don't want contains information about something you do want. You hate rushing. Okay, flip the coin. Maybe what you actually want is spaciousness and the feeling that there is enough time. You hate waking up to an alarm clock. Flip it. Maybe you don't actually hate mornings at all. Maybe you hate somebody else deciding when your morning begins. You hate worrying about money. Okay, but what does the opposite actually mean to you? Do not automatically write, I want $10 million, because that is very often start borrowing society's definition of success again. Ask yourself, what you want the money to allow you to experience? Maybe wealth to you is walking into a restaurant, opening the menu and noticing what you want to eat before you notice what it costs. Maybe it's booking a flight based on where you want to go instead of spending 4 hours trying to find which Tuesday happens to be $37 cheaper. Maybe it's being able to spend Wednesday morning drinking coffee with someone you love without this constant feeling in the back of your mind that you should be somewhere else. Now we are getting somewhere because I want to be rich. It's just a sentence, but I want ownership of my mornings. I want to live somewhere warm. I want enough money that normal decisions do not create anxiety. I want time with the people I love, and I want to work on things that excites me, inspires me. Now you are beginning to describe an actual life. And this matters because if you do not consciously define what success means to you, society already has a definition waiting. Bigger house, better car, more money, more followers, more achievements, more status, more everything. You can spend 30 years climbing that ladder and then suddenly realize it was leaning against somebody else's wall. So now take every single thing you wrote in step 1 and flip the coin. Next to each thing you don't want, write what you would want instead. Do not worry about how you are going to get it. We are not solving that yet. We are simply creating the other side of the coin. If you wrote 20 things in step 1, I want 20 things on the other side. Pause the video again. Flip every coin. When you are finished, come back and we will go to step 3. Step 3. Clear the canvas before you paint. Okay, now you should have something interesting in front of you because you have a much more personal picture of what your life could actually look and feel like. But we are still not going to build it yet. Imagine I put a huge canvas in front of you and say, okay, now paint your dream life. The problem is that for most of us, the canvas isn't actually blank. Your parents painted some of it, your teachers painted some, your culture painted some. Your previous experiences added a few layers, social media added another layer, and society came along with a giant brush and wrote things like money is difficult to make, success requires sacrifice. Be realistic. Do not expect too much. And of course, our favorite one. You want something badly enough, you have to work hard for it. Then we discover personal development and try painting a completely different picture directly on top of all of that. Every morning, we stand in front of the mirror saying, I am wealthy, I am successful, money comes easily to me. While somewhere underneath, another voice is quietly saying, yeah, right. Then why doesn't your bank account show it? This is why I think some people spend years trying to motivate themselves and never understand why they keep returning to exactly the same place. Imagine driving a car while pressing the gas pedal and the brake at the same time. You can buy a bigger engine, push the accelerator harder, scream motivational statements at the windshield, and listen to another podcast about discipline. But maybe the engine was never the problem. Maybe you simply need to take your foot off the brake. That's why before I start trying to install some wonderful new belief, I want to know what's already there. And now I want you to use the list you just created. Look at the things you said you want and take them one by one. Then ask yourself, why don't I already have this? And do not give me the polite answer. Write the first things that actually come into your mind. Maybe you wrote, I want financial freedom. And immediately your mind says, well, I do not earn enough money. Write it. Then ask why. Maybe the next answer is because I don't have the skills. Write that. I don't know the right people. Write it. I'm too old. Write it. I have children. Write it. I don't have the time. Write it. People like me don't become wealthy. Write that also. I'm scared. I will fail. I will succeed. Write it. This is where we are trying to expose the invisible rules underneath the life you are currently living. Keep asking why. And there is an important distinction here because something can feel completely true without being objectively true. If you have struggled with money for 20 years, that's very real evidence about your past, but it doesn't automatically become a contract for your future. Your history tells you where you have been. It doesn't get to decide where you are allowed to go. So now, look at every limitation you have written and ask one simple question. Is this universally true? Or have I simply been living as though it is true? You don't even need to replace these beliefs yet. Just seeing them is enormously powerful because now you can finally see the brakes you have been pressing while wondering why the car isn't moving. This is actually one of the reasons I created the 6-part belief kit and made it free because I wanted people to have practical way of going much deeper into this process and finding these invisible rules instead of simply trying to shout louder than them. But for this exercise, your job is simple. Look at the life you described in step 2 and write down every reason your mind gives you for why you cannot have it. Pause the video. Write them all down. Do not fight them and do not judge them. Just expose them. Then come back. Because step 4 is where we finally start painting. Step 4. Who is the person who lives this life? Okay, now we have something completely different in front of us. We know what you do not want. We have flipped those things into experiences you actually want. We have started identifying the beliefs and limitations telling you why you cannot have them. Now, we are finally going to paint. But instead of asking, what do I need to do to get this life? I want you to ask a slightly different question. Who is the person who naturally lives this life? How does that person think about money? How do they think about time? What do they tolerate and what do they no longer tolerate? How do they make decisions? What do they believe about themselves? How do they treat their body, their relationships, their work, and their own attention? Because the normal model of life is basically do, have, be. Do, have, be. I'll work harder, then I'll have more money, and then I will finally be free. I'll train harder, then I'll have the body, and then I'll finally feel confident. I will achieve enough, then I will have recognition, and then I will finally feel successful. But what happens if we start reversing some of that and ask who we would be first? If I was already the person who respected my time, what would I do differently today? If I was already someone who believed there were opportunities all around me, what would I notice that I'm currently ignoring? If I was already someone who didn't believe exhaustion proved my worth, what would I stop doing? This isn't pretending that your external circumstances do not exist. It's beginning to change the person making decisions inside those circumstances. So now I want you to actually write a description of this person. Do not just write what they own, write who they are. What do they believe about money? What do they believe about work? What do they believe about themselves? How do they wake up in the morning? What do they say yes to? What do they say no to? How do they react when something goes wrong? What do they no longer tolerate? What kind of people are around them? How do they use their time? And most importantly, ask yourself, what could I start embodying from this person today before the external life has completely changed? Maybe that person protects their mornings. So protect one morning. Maybe they do not automatically say yes to everything. So say no to one thing. Maybe they do not believe exhaustion proves their worth. So allow yourself to rest without first having to earn it. Maybe they create possibilities instead of only reacting to problems. So give yourself 1 hour this week where your only job is to think about what else could be possible. And before you continue, pause the video one final time and write this person down. Describe them as if you were writing the main character of a movie and you needed an actor to understand exactly who this person is. Pause here, build the character, and then come back because I want to tell you a story that shows you why all of this matters.
Wake up. The shadows only hold the power you give them. Survival was just the beginning. Now, we rebuild. The future isn't chosen for you. You write it.
Okay, are you ready for the final story? The woman who told her sons, nobody goes to work. Yesterday here in Thailand, I met a 62-year-old woman who gave me one of the best real-life examples of this entire idea. During COVID, she suddenly found herself in a situation where she didn't have a job. Her 2 adult sons weren't working either, and the 3 of them had to figure out how they were going to survive. She told me there was work available where they could make around 400 baht for 8 hours, roughly 50 baht an hour, which is almost $1. The exact amount isn't really the point because what matters is what she realized when she looked at the mathematics. Even if all 3 of them worked extremely hard, 6 days a week, they would still barely have enough to cover rent, food, and normal life. So she told her sons something that sounded completely crazy. Nobody goes to work. You can imagine their reaction. Mom, what are you talking about? We don't have money. This is exactly when we need to work. We have to take whatever we can get. But her thinking was fascinating. She basically said, if we invest all of our available time and energy into work that mathematically cannot solve our problem, when exactly are we going to have the time to create something that can? And I absolutely love that, because she wasn't saying, let's sit on the sofa, think positive thoughts, and hope money falls through the ceiling. She was saying, let's stop panicking for a moment and think, what do people need right now? What might they need? What could we create? What might still have value years from now? She didn't have previous business experience. She didn't even know what product she was going to sell. And remember, she was just laid out because of COVID at her late 50s. So she didn't have any experiences in business. She simply refused to accept that the first available solution had to be the only solution. Eventually, they found an opportunity, created their own products, and started selling them. Years later, they are doing well. They are not just surviving anymore. They can actually live. And it was so beautiful to see how happy she was about her decision, how radiant she was when she was proudly representing the business she owned. And please do not misunderstand the lesson, because I'm definitely not saying everybody should quit their jobs tomorrow. I'm not saying hard work is bad, and I'm certainly not saying you can just manifest money from your sofa. The lesson is much more practical. Do not become so busy surviving your current life that you never have time to create another. I sometimes think about someone drowning in water. When you are panicking, every movement feels necessary. You kick harder, move your arms faster, and use enormous amounts of energy because your brain is screaming, do something. But imagine there is a boat 3 meters behind you. Kicking harder in the wrong direction doesn't help you. At some point, you have to stop for long enough to look around. That is what questioning your life does. It doesn't magically solve everything. It gives you enough space to notice possibilities that panic might be hiding from you. I have to do this. Okay, maybe today you do. But do you have to do it forever? I need this job. Maybe right now you do. But could you start creating another possibility while you still have it? I don't have enough money. Okay, what could you learn? I'm too old. The woman I just told you about started around 60. I know nothing about business. Well, neither did she. I don't know what to do. Fine. Maybe your first job isn't having the answer. Maybe it's learning how to ask a better question. Because almost every limitation can do one of two things. It can end the conversation, or it can become the beginning of a much more interesting question. And this is also where I want to separate effort from hustle culture, because I'm totally against hustle culture, but I'm not against ambition, difficult things, working long hours, or creating something enormous. If somebody tells me, Tony, I absolutely love building companies 14 hours a day, give me another challenge. Fantastic. Do it. I just want to make sure that 14-hour day is actually their desire and not an inherited program they never questioned. Here is very simple test I like. Imagine I could guarantee that you would get exactly the same financial result you are currently working toward without working another hour for it. Would you still want to do the work? If you immediately say, absolutely, I love doing this, wonderful. That work probably belongs in your dream life. But if your entire body screams, thank God, I'm never going back. I was here just for the money. Maybe that's information worth paying attention to. You can do exactly the same experiment with the gym. If I could give you exactly the same body, health, and energy without you ever touching another dumbbell, would you still train? Some people absolutely love training and would say yes immediately. Great. Others would happily throw their gym shoes into the ocean. Also great. There isn't one correct life. And that's actually the whole point. We are trying to stop building our lives around what everybody else says we are supposed to want. Maybe that is ultimately what changing your life starts with. Not having all the answers, not quitting your job tomorrow, not pretending everything is possible just because somebody on Instagram said so, but becoming willing to question some of the answers you have been living with. So look at what you have just created. You started with the magical wand and asked, what don't I want anymore? Then you flip the coin. What do I actually want instead? Then you cleared the canvas. What beliefs and limitations are telling me I cannot have it? And finally, you started painting. Who would I become if this was simply the way I lived? Now, do not wait until everything changes before becoming that person. Start being that person in small ways today, because we spend enormous amounts of time building businesses, careers, houses, portfolios, bodies, and social media accounts, but do not become so good at making a living that you forget to make a life. That is really where the intention game came from for me. I had created a life that felt incredibly different from the one I had before. And I became fascinated with understanding what had actually changed. What decisions made the difference? Which beliefs had to disappear? Which ones had to replace them? Could there be some kind of roadmap behind this instead of simply calling someone lucky? And it's also why I later built Life Oracle. But I want to explain this properly because I do not want you to think I'm just mentioning another app at the end of a video. I use Life Oracle myself every single day. And I already have a life that I genuinely love. But that doesn't mean I have stopped being curious about how much better life can become. Quite the opposite. I use it to understand my own reality more deeply, to see connections I might not have consciously noticed, to question what I believe, to explore why certain things are happening, and most importantly, to keep asking myself, what could I create from here? Because creating your dream life isn't something you ever really finish. You can paint an absolute masterpiece and stand back, look at it, and genuinely love everything you have created. But that doesn't mean you put the process down and decide you are never going to paint again. Imagine a painter creating one beautiful painting and then saying, "That's it. I have painted. I'm done for life." Or a singer writing one incredible song, singing it once and then deciding, "Oh, there are no more songs to sing." That would almost be a tragedy because the joy was never only in finishing the masterpiece. The joy was also in creating it, especially living it. I think life is much more like that. You create one beautiful painting, you enjoy it, you live inside it for a while, and then maybe another idea starts appearing, another color you want to explore, another experience you want to have, another place you want to see, another version of yourself you become curious about. Not because the previous painting was somehow wrong or wasn't good enough, but simply because you are still alive and there are still more beautiful things to create. That's how I use Life Oracle. Not because my life needs fixing, but because I don't want to stop discovering what else might be possible. And there is another reason I think this matters more than people realize. Your life is happening while you are trying to understand it. Every day you are making decisions based on beliefs you may not even know you have. You are deciding what opportunities you notice, what you ignore, what you believe is possible, what you tolerate, where you put your attention, and what you do next. Those little tiny decisions do not look dramatic today, but put thousands of them together and eventually you call the result your life. That is why I don't think self-awareness is something you do once. Figure yourself out and then you are finished. I don't want to wake up 5 years from now and finally understand something about myself, my beliefs, or my reality that I could have understood today. 5 years is a huge piece of your life. Even 1 year is. And that is where I think there should be some urgency around this. Not because you should panic and completely change your life tomorrow, but because your life isn't waiting for you to become conscious of how you are creating it. It's already happening. That's why I use Life Oracle every day. Sometimes I'm investigating something I'm experiencing. Sometimes I'm questioning an idea or belief. Sometimes I am simply curious about what I'm creating next. It's almost like having a mirror for parts of yourself and your reality that are normally difficult to see when you are standing inside them. And that is why I made it available for other people to use too. At least for now it is. So yes, you can try Life Oracle absolutely for free, but I wouldn't tell you to use it because it's free. I would tell you to use it because if it helps you see even one belief, pattern, possibility, or connection that changes the direction of the decisions you make from here. Think about what that can mean when those decisions compound over the next year, 5 years or 10 years of your life. Life isn't supposed to be one masterpiece you finally complete and then protect until you die. It's a whole gallery of paintings you get to create and enjoy, and a lifetime of songs you haven't even heard yet. And personally, I want to see how beautiful that gallery can become. There is nothing more beautiful than to see what people can create. That's what Life Oracle is for. And whether you use Life Oracle, the Belief Kit, or simply the 4 exercises you have done with me today, please do not become so busy building everything around your life that you forget to actually start living it. Because maybe the most important business you will ever build isn't your company. It's your life. Bless you. And remember to stay healthy and wealthy. Happy Intention Game.
Everything begins with one intention.